Rewind-A-Dynamite from the post-wrestling site. AEW, lighting up the fuse. Sit back and enjoy the bubbly as we hear from John and Wai Ting. Where we're going, we don't need roads. And if the buck stops here, this thing might blow. Everything you hear are opinions of the show. And if you don't like it, go to the forums and let them know.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rewind-A-Dynamite. John Pollock and Wai Ting here, following tonight's episode from Cardiff, Wales. I guess I should say this afternoon's card from Cardiff, Wales.
Yeah, you could say that. Mm-hmm.
I am declaring that. It was this afternoon's show, which for the second week in a row, Triller found a way to somehow mess up this feed. We got a message tonight that it is delayed due to a technical processing overrun, which I don't know what that means, but it was delayed an hour. So we had to go to plan B, and here we are on time.
Yeah, 2 weeks in a row with these issues. So
I hope everything is sorted by Sunday.
I would hope so too.
That'd be a bad show to mess up with. Are you aware there is a 2-hour pre-show on Sunday?
I guess I assumed it. Mm-hmm.
So you can just dedicate your entire day to professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Just like last year.
Are you looking forward to this show?
Yeah, I would say so. The main show. I don't know if I'll like the totality of it, including the 2-hour, 0 hour. I'm not so sure, but the card itself, I think so. Yeah.
Do you know who played in Toronto this week?
Who?
Bush.
Oh, okay.
Getting ready for their big moment on Sunday, where we
will they be there?
No, I don't think they'll be there. No.
Yeah,
but they will be in spirit and in audio form.
Video packages, sure. Mm-hmm.
Sure, why not? All right, well, we're going to be getting into Dynamite. We covered a lot of the news on today's Pollock and Thurston. I would recommend today's show. It's always great when we have Todd Martin on the show. We chatted with him for about a half hour. A lot of focus on AEW going into this big show on Sunday, where the company is at, and a lot of the shifting identity, which it was very interesting to hear a lot of the points from Will Ospreay that kind of leaned on this as almost part of their story as well. The presentation of MJF, some interesting stuff there we'll get into. But that show is up from today with Brandon and I talking about that with Todd, as well as the UFC antitrust suit. A lot of interesting perspectives on that case that is ongoing, and the latest involving Hulk Hogan being caught on camera, insulting Kamala Harris, and plenty more that was going on today, including John Cena and a recent interview he did on Club Shay Shay. Are you a listener of Club Shay Shay?
No, I'm not. No.
Well, this was I have not heard the interview. I have only heard the snippets of John Cena. Very relaxed individual who shared a fact that recently he, on a day off, a rare day off for the man, he's very busy, he's very in demand, he just decided to drive the perimeter of Florida with no music on in his car, just in his own thoughts. And he drove for 800 or so miles. I was like, wow, that's an interesting guy.
Oh, that Total Bellas, I think, made that pretty effectively clear. Yeah, he is a very interesting man.
Do you ever drive just no music on, nothing, just to yourself?
No, but I can understand why somebody would. It's a bit, it's a meditative experience.
Yeah. I would be curious what that would be like for such a long period of time.
Well, maybe you'll try it after tonight's show.
Have you ever heard of those retreats where you go away and you just don't say anything? You're just no words, nothing for days.
Yeah, like a meditation retreat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a name for it. It's not coming to mind right now, but yeah.
I think you would hate that.
What if we just sat here for do you know how awkward it would be if you and I just sat here for 30 seconds? How difficult that would be?
Yeah, I don't care to engage in that experiment.
I wasn't proposing that we engage in this, but nonetheless. Okay. Well, there you go. That's the latest. Pollock and Thurston out today. On a serious issue that we want to get to, there is one news story that we did put up on the site today, and this is from the reporting of Brandon Thurston, who reported this through our outlet today. I did work with Brandon on this story, but he did the legwork of the reporting on this story, and that revolves around Rich Swann, who we had learned was arrested 2 months ago on June the 8th in Altamonte Springs, and I'm reading here from Brandon's story. He was charged with disorderly public intoxication causing a disturbance, which is a misdemeanor. And we have learned that through TNA, who did respond to us, that Swann is entering a substance abuse program. And the company first heard of this arrest earlier this week when we did reach out, as we did to Rich Swann as well. And according to the public arrest report, which was filed in Seminole County, the individual, who was later identified as Rich Swann, was initially described as a black male wearing a black shirt and blue shorts, attempting to forcefully enter an apartment door at approximately 9:50 p.m. Again, this was back on June the 8th. And one of the residents gave a description of what was happening, and that there was a yelling coming from the door, and this person came out of the bathroom and heard the banging on the room and grabbed a handgun from inside and announced to Rich Swann, who was outside the door, that this person, they had a gun. Whoever was banging on the door was to leave, and Swann was allegedly yelling, "This is my house." So this could have been a case of him. His address was nearby, and therefore he may have just had a mistaken where he was. And then the resident of the apartment contacted the authorities, and police arrived at the scene. Swann had run away, and the resident told the police officer that he did not want to press charges over the damaged door, but police then received another call, this time from a woman who was in the same neighborhood, and stated in a statement to the police that she had gone to her son's apartment, and that's when she ran into Rich Swann and said that, "I heard a male trying to talk to me, and Swann started following me. I asked him to stop, and Swann, according to the report, responded, 'What do you mean, stop following you?'" So there's more of a description here. The officers took Swann into custody and stated that they identified him as the person who was trying to kick open this door, and described Swann as being incoherent, appearing to be intoxicated, and alcohol was smelled on his breath, according to the police officer. So TNA did issue a statement here that TNA Wrestling takes any and all charges against its performers seriously. Rich Swann is responsible for his own personal actions. The incidents in question are under investigation and have been addressed with Rich. He has informed TNA Wrestling that he is voluntarily entering a substance abuse rehabilitation program. TNA Wrestling has suspended Rich pending the completion of its investigation into the incidents. So this is not a case where he is losing his job. They are investigating these incidents, and as they had conveyed, they were not aware of this arrest. He had actually worked for TNA the following week at the Cicero Stadium shows, including Against All Odds. So it's an unfortunate story. Rich Swann has through his social media, he has been sharing that he has been alcohol free over the last 2 months as well. So that would line up with this, but this arrest was not known about. You can read the full story at postwrestling.com, and hopefully this is taken care of and Rich Swann can make a return to TNA Wrestling. But that was Brandon Thurston's report. I thought he did a very, very good job. It was a tough story to work around this past week, and Brandon did a real commendable job on it, I would say.
Seeing a lot of response out there. I think showing sympathy, for somebody going through these issues. I think it's encouraging that he has made efforts to no longer drink. So hopefully he gets the help he needs.
Yeah, wishing him the best, and it looks like TNA is giving him that ability. Like they're not like cutting ties with the guy. It would appear if everything can be corrected and they move forward. All right, we are going to be diving into the review of Dynamite because there's a lot to get to, and then on the back end of the show we will take a look at the All In show that is coming up Sunday. So again, if you want to do a catch up of the news, we pretty much did a lot of that on Pollock and Thurston today. Also want to give a shout out to the Wellness Policy, who did another excellent show this past Tuesday, discussing many things from Jordan Goodman and his recent wedding this past weekend, the Steve Balenki, who was there at the wedding.
Who officiated the wedding. Yeah.
Learned a lot about this individual on the show this week, as I did about proper handshakes and many things that were discussed on a very very intriguing, as always, edition of the Wellness Policy.
I'm always impressed that you take the time to listen. So
you say that every single month, and you always are like amazed when I tell you that I enjoy the show immensely, and this month was no different.
Well, hopefully, thank you, John. Appreciate it. And hopefully those of you who are looking for something to listen to also make some time to listen to the first edition of MCU Hater. Yes. MCU Later is back, but this time they are talking about movies that aren't so well beloved by the wrestling audience. This one, they're starting things off here with X-Men Apocalypse. So it'll be Rich, it's WH, and it's the Ringers, Cam Hawkins, joining them for this particular episode. The first one is already out right now on the Post Wrestling Cafe, but those of you listening on the free feed can actually get it in the morning. Just this one for free.
One final plug regarding shows. Can I have a minute here? Because
Sure.
I don't know how to properly promote this show that is just it's a highlight of everyone's month. I'm talking about the N.W.A. podcast, where Nate Milton just celebrated a birthday. For my money, the man is the top host in the game. Okay, and I don't say that lightly. How can I do justice to a show that Nate, Chris, and Two-Way Ray did such a great job on Sunday, even a run-in by birthday boy Andrew Thompson. So I thought, what are you missing if you're not catching the N.W.A. podcast? Here is just a snippet of what you're missing from this past Sunday's show, the Nate Milton experience.
Good evening. Welcome to Post Wrestling, everybody. The super producer on these streets. He got more hits out here than Dr. Luke with none of the allegations. Christopher. What does Mars make? M&M's. What do M&M's do? They melt in your mouth. Oh my goodness, but not in your hand. Oh my. Y'all gotta watch Black Dynamite, man. It is hilarious. Send some more super chats if you want to hear me talk about New Edition for like 20, 30 minutes, because I could do that. I could do that, ladies and gentlemen. You know what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. In the morning, the Pancake House. 2 in the morning with me. Talking about the overnight scenario.
Hey, Nate, what you know about that, man? Hold on.
Sardines. Hey, and pork and beans.
It is now. Bruh.
Return of the Mac. Return of the Mac. You knew that I'd be back. Like, that was your first song, though, my boy.
Right. Yeah.
Your first song is Return of the Mac. Like, where did you come from? Where did you go?
Right, yeah.
Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe? For a saint is just a sinner who fell down.
Right. But
We need a super chat just for that. The fact that I dropped some Donnie McClurkin on the N.W.A. podcast on Post Wrestling. Never before, never again in the history of wrestling podcasts have you heard somebody with some gospel out here on these streets. 3 big O's. What we gonna call them, Chris? Ooh. Are y'all ready for ooh? It'll be too damn hot in August. In Texas.
Right.
Tony Khan, have you checked the weather, brother?
Right.
Oh, it's gonna be too damn hot for that many people. Listen. Professor's claims are outdated and flagrant. He tried to say he acclaimed our free agents. Chris, against the Acclaimed, he got no chance. He better sit on that couch like he J.D. Vance. Hey, I'm like Kendrick. My entendres got entendres on them.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nate Milton. That was one show. That was just, the man is a tour de force, and that's our official happy birthday celebration of the great Nate Milton, best host in the game, in my opinion.
Incredible. You can actually hear Nate right now. I'm seeing people in the chat room giving Nate a shout out, not just for this show, but for the John Cena review he just did with Poison Rana. Those guys are doing a series basically talking about every John Cena title win for the next 17 months or so. And they are going to be releasing the first episode for free on our feed on Friday. So Nate and Andrew will be joining them. It's a pretty lengthy episode, so be prepared for that, as you usually are. But they do a great job talking about everything leading up to John Cena's first title run. That'll be out on Friday on our free feed.
Yes, that series will be running all throughout the Cena farewell. So this is title reign #1, beating JBL. Mm-hmm. And they have a lot to say on this show, as they often do. So there you have it. Check out Nate and Andrew with Braden and Davey. All right. On that note, and we will mention what is also coming up this weekend a little later on. But let's get into Dynamite. First of all, Wai, an amazing crowd at the Utilita Arena in Cardiff, Wales. They should be going to Europe like 3 times a year minimum.
I mean, they should just do all the Dynamites there.
You could. I mean, this crowd, they were so hot for this show from start to finish. And you really did get the sense of the performers that catered a lot of their promos towards Wales itself. And we'll get into that throughout the show. But also worth noting is that there was a dark match where Michael Oku defeated Serpentico. And Shivani is inside of the ring to host the contract signing involving Britt Baker and Mercedes Moné, who comes out with Camille. And they have agreed, no physicality, but there is a way around that, we would learn. So Moné says that she's going to tap out Britt Baker. Baker is the past. Mercedes is the future. And Baker brings up how last year you were hobbling on crutches into Wembley Stadium to sit in the crowd and watch me. Because before there was a CEO, there was a DMD. Moné insults Baker, calling her and the fans losers. And that if Baker is really all in, she wouldn't have gotten a backup plan in case wrestling doesn't work out. How dare you become a dentist and not put all your eggs in this one basket. Mercedes has been all in since she was 10 years old, and you'll never be able to beat me on Sunday. Baker says, I didn't have a plan B. I had 2 plan A's, and you might have been one of 4, but I am one of 1. I'm the baddest bitch on the block, and I used to admire you, and I was inspired by you, but that person that you were doesn't exist anymore. You're now a smug, arrogant ass that cares more about how much you're paid than your legacy, and I wish you could find that girl that you used to be, because that's the one I want to beat. But says, this bitch says, I'm not going to hit you, but looks to Camille, stating this bitch is getting on my nerves. So she strikes Camille with the microphone and then leaps off the table onto both of them and once again holds up the TBS title.
Really good segment. Definitely the best one since their first actual face-to-face. I haven't been the most impressed with everything that they've done, and it unfortunately was derailed with Britt Baker's suspension. But they've really kind of been
according
lacking.
to Tony Khan, what suspension? She's been on TV.
Yeah. It's really been lacking in any sort of like personal substance, but it's personal substance that we got here. You know, I didn't know that Britt Baker used to look up to Mercedes Moné and it was inspired to get into the business because of her. I think that's like a really important plot point. So glad they introduced it here. I love their lines about plan B and having 2 plan A's. I thought they both sounded really good here.
It was a good segment, and I think the crowd elevated so much on this show as well. Like, everyone felt like a superstar that was out there tonight, beginning with these two. It was just like, it just enhanced everything. And they needed a segment like this that I think a lot of people have high hopes for the match itself. And it was kind of, you started off strong and this thing got derailed a bit along the way. But this was a good segment for the final show. Renee is with the learning tree, and Jericho mentions flying over here to Cardiff, England, which got a ton of boos, and asks why Tommy Billington gets to call himself that just because you're related by blood and that Tom Billington happened to be your uncle. You haven't even earned a spot to be here on Dynamite, and you are not as good as the Dynamite Kid. And he warns Hook to watch what he's going to do to Billington tonight. So Jericho and Billington is our first match, and Tommy Billington, who's been on AEW several times now. I mean, this guy is just like, his training has been watching Tom Billington matches, and just everything is carbon copy of Tom Billington. Everything from the way he does these shoulder blocks, like every movement is in the style of his uncle.
Yeah. He's a clone, essentially. And like throughout history, there have been a lot of clones of the Dynamite Kid. I guess more appropriate that it's somebody actually related to him. It's a good gimmick to have.
It is. At some time, I think you will want to blossom out of it, but he's at this stage right now where he is the Dynamite Kid's nephew. Like, that is sort of his calling card here. I enjoyed this match a lot. I thought that Chris really sold a lot for this guy. They had Brian Keith yank Billington off the apron, and Big Bill throws him into the post. We go to the break. Jericho gets the walls, and Billington fights to the rope, and then Billington with like the perfect replication of the Dynamite Kid snap suplex, then tilt-a-whirls into a tombstone on Jericho, goes to the top and lands a high cross to Keith on the floor. Bill is thrown into the rail, and then Tom Billington climbs to the top. Code Breaker catches him in midair, and Jericho gets the win in 9 minutes and 25 seconds. And then Jericho addresses the crowd, thinks that Hook is not there when Hook's music plays, and he comes out, goes right into Jericho's face, but Big Bill attacks from behind, chokeslams Hook, and they set up the match for Collision, which was also taped on Wednesday to air on Saturday.
I thought this match was very good. You know, I thought Billington's presence felt pretty strong, and I think that was mainly due to the crowd and the context of this match. Jericho's promo beforehand, I think, did a good job of setting up the stakes for Billington. You know, it's not just a match where he needed to, or he was looking to beat Jericho. He was there to prove that he is a worthy successor to the Dynamite Kid name. And I think, like, he managed to achieve that, you know, with the performance here. He certainly, like, in ring is a very stoic technician, the way his uncle was. And they gave him a really nice little heroic moment before losing to the man advantage at the end here. I thought this was a really good way of giving him a memorable Dynamite debut. So I'm curious to see what they do with him next. You know, like, you can do the entire Dynamite Kid, I guess, greatest hits, pair him with like a luchador, do like a Tiger Mask run, maybe bring in DH Smith and
just bring in Tiger Mask from New Japan.
Oh yeah, you could do that.
The version, why not? Mm-hmm. He's still going. Timeless Toni Storm against Saraya for the Women's Championship was next. Huge chant for Toni, and then they start singing for her when the match begins. Saraya got in a cannonball off the apron, and we come back from the break, and Storm is winding up, but fakes out Saraya to hit a DDT, and Saraya comes back with the nightcap. And then a sunset bomb hits the Impaler DDT as Storm grabs hold of the bottom rope, stopping the pin. And then after a sky high, Harley Cameron gets onto the apron and Toni walks over, makes out with Harley, then turns around, kisses Saraya, and that sets her up for Storm Zero as Toni Storm retains in 8 minutes, 39 seconds.
Thought it was an okay match, not that high on in-ring content, but like quite high on personality, which I thought was actually very effective for the both of them. And we are getting Toni Storm firmly back into her old character, her old energy, and a very straight up babyface heading into Wembley.
And still leaving it up in the air what Saraya is going to do at Wembley. That's been her story, is finding a spot to be on the show on Sunday. So I guess you have Saturday that you can set something up for her to do something on the show.
Perhaps, or maybe this was it.
You have a 2-hour pre-show. You can. I think they're fitting everybody that has been flown over onto that show. I think we're getting everybody and then some.
Maybe Mina Shirakawa.
Yeah, that was interesting. No Mina Shirakawa on this show, and yeah,
she might have not flown over there yet. I mean, who knows?
Mariah May attacks her inside of the ring using the shoe as Toni is celebrating, and then just holds Toni in her chest before laying down on the mat. And that was our final angle that we can assume if they didn't tape something on Saturday.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's been really good. I mean, they've done about all they needed to for this one. So, yeah.
The conglomeration is in the back alongside Willow Nightingale, and Mark Briscoe talks about proliferation, and it notes that Kyle O'Reilly are joining Orange Cassidy in the Casino Gauntlet. We got several names added to the Casino Gauntlet on this show. Kyle O'Reilly then did the worst British accent that made my Zack Sabre Jr. sound like crystal clear in comparison. And we are also going to get a 6-man on Collision with the conglomeration of Briscoe, Cassidy, and Kyle O'Reilly against Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, and Roderick Strong for Saturday. Countdown special for All In airs Saturday night on TNT after Collision, and then we get Will Ospreay coming out, and my God, did this place go insane for Ospreay when he came out. It was thunderous, the response he got coming out here, and his music ends, the crowd keeps singing, and he's just like genuinely impressed here at this scope of the fan base. And eventually the singing gets cut off when MJF's music plays. So they're livid. He walks out in his American suit, and they continue to chant for Ospreay as the two just stand in opposite corners. And then Ospreay starts talking, and every North American reviewer had to go to Google for half of this promo from Ospreay. First, we were told about Gavin and Stacey, which aired on the BBC.
Mm-hmm. About I guess a Welsh person and somebody from where Ospreay's from, Essex.
Yes.
Becoming a couple.
The crowd loved this. He talks about his own history of wrestling in Wales, including in a bar that is filthier than the wife. But Sunday is about cleaning up the mess that MJF has made. And I may as well be Barry Scott. And I'm like, the TNA voiceover guy?
Yeah,
no,
I thought that too.
Barry Scott, the bleach salesman played by Neil Burgess. I hope I'm getting this right, because boy, will I hear from it if I'm wrong here. Bang, and the dirt is gone. And holy Christ, did this place just light up when he referenced bang, and the dirt is gone. And this way sidetracked me for a good 15 minutes as I was learning all about this subculture.
The subculture of cleaning products?
Oh, dude, this guy, like, there's plenty on this guy that you can find online.
Is this a real cleaning product?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay. It's not just a bit. It's just
no. This guy has
cool.
passed on. I do believe, but yeah, I
sorry
wonder
to
what
hear
the Canadian equivalent of this would be. Would this be like Mr. Clean, or I don't know. I don't think we have any cleaning product that would elicit 5,000 people to just erupt at a reference to.
Do we have a catchphrase like that? Maybe not for cleaning products, no.
Probably some jingle out there. MJF calls him a flip merchant, and you got popular trying to impress all these people. I got popular doing this, and he makes the kangaroo kick pose and says that he came back to action before he was 100% healthy because he was begged to by executives at AEW and WBD to come clean up your mess, Will. Ospreay says how AEW was a renegade wrestling promotion catered to people who actually like pro wrestling, and then they had to watch MJF as its world champion. And we giggled. The double clothesline was hilarious, but then the joke went on for too long, and it steered too far away from the foundation of what this company was built on. And it all culminated at All In last year when MJF versus Adam Cole was not this epic clash, but instead it was two friends jerking each other off. Tony Khan has 3,000 people signed back there, and yet he called me to sign me because I'm what professionalism looks like. And he told me, Will, I need you to put on a great wrestling match because I can't rely on my world champion to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, this is a very long segment, so let's take a pause here for this portion of the Will promo and the direction they went here.
I really enjoyed it. I don't think wrestling promos ever need to shy away from doing sort of localized references like this. I mean, it makes it sound that much more authentic. It pops the people that are there. And for the rest of us, we can Google and find out ourselves. And I think makes it feel a bit more engaging for even people like us. I found it pretty surprising. Well, I wouldn't even say surprising, but like interesting at least that they are pointing out criticisms of MJF's babyface run being to sports entertainment and not enough pro wrestling. I don't know if I've heard that vocalized, in AEW TV before, but as sort of like a reason for Ospreay to cut a promo on MJF, who is now heel, I actually quite like it.
Yeah, it was like I didn't find that this like veered into that territory where you are where it's going as like too inside or just throwing it. Like the idea is that as champion, you turned off a lot of fans that are here to see great wrestlers, which is what I represent. And it's outlining a contrast between these two while still working within the realm of professional wrestling that we're building up, that this isn't just some, they're not going into the territory like you were booked to be champion or things like that, where you just go so far off, you kind of lose the plot of what building up a pro wrestling match is. And I think to a decent amount of the audience, I think they completely understand what this is alluding to, and AEW itself veering into this shift in identity that can be summarized for a lot of people based on that title reign of MJF, which was polarizing to say the least to people. So MJF explains that I gave them entertainment, but as the alternative, they need to, he says that MJF has been entertaining, but the alternative is that you need to be able to cater to the fans and to their voices. This is about restoring the international title and the feeling. And Ospreay says he is the feeling. And MJF says, I don't care about catering to these people. I only care about one thing, that's winning. Tony Khan told him that this company would be safe in your capable hands. But who the hell are you? Says that the only reason, he looks into the camera and just says, the only reason you know him is because you are redcoat terrorists. Everyone knows and loves MJF, and everybody agrees I am the greatest wrestler. Who told you, Will, that you were the best? And he laughs when it's the fans that tell Will he's the greatest wrestler. These fans know nothing, and he knows the fans know nothing about wrestling because they like Ospreay's matches. I headlined and won the biggest show of all time. I will be the ace. You will be second place. So Ospreay says that, he goes on to state, Ospreay, you have one move in your chamber to beat me and you're not man enough to pull the trigger. I am the facts, and facts don't care about humans, and they don't care about feelings. Ospreay says how MJF, you have not inspired one person to ever do this, and tells MJF to go anywhere in the world, survey who the best wrestler is in the world. They will all say Ospreay. He will not lose in front of his family. MJF, it took you 4 years to win over these fans. It took me 4 beats of my song to win them over. That was a great line, and this pushes him over the brink, and MJF yells that they loved him until you showed up and ruined all of it. And then goes on to state that, Ospreay, you're a great father, a great husband. You manned up, and earlier today I got to spend some time with your wife and your so-called kid, and explains that his child is not his own child, even though you've raised him like your own, and that after, when his wife has her next child, it also won't be Will's. And he is trying to push him so that Ospreay will strike him, where they have agreed to no physicality. So Ospreay turns to Shivani, asks him to check in the back with Tony Khan how much it will cost him to break this no physicality rule. And we have learned that the going rate for a punch during one of these segments is $127,000, to which Will believes it's worth it and goes after MJF, but he gets struck with the Dynamite diamond ring as security is pulling Will off and his arms are restrained, and splits open Ospreay, hits him with a brainbuster, and pins Will, counting to 3, and then teases the Tiger Driver before security and Christopher Daniels can stop MJF. This was like a 23-minute segment that they went. This was a long segment that they had going back and forth.
Makes me wonder if it was originally intended to be 23 minutes. Even that feels pretty unusual for Dynamite.
I wonder if this thing was longer, if they cut this thing down. There was one point where it did feel like an edit point, and I wonder if this was even longer than this. Like, this is an inordinate amount of time for, especially an AEW talking segment.
Yeah, I mean, I found it all captivating. I'm not going to say it probably couldn't have used a little bit of tightening up, but I thought overall it was a very good segment. It was a segment that I think really cemented the idea of Will Ospreay being the face of this company. And they introduced a lot of things in this 23 minutes, like almost like enough that I think that could have been stretched out over the course of like a month here. The idea that, what is it? MJF was the face of the company and he had to go away, and Tony Khan said the company will be great in Will Ospreay's hands, and MJF not feeling that way. I really feel like that should have been the discussion this entire time. That should have been the main story and argument between these two the entire time, and not so much the Americanism thing, not even so much the Tiger Driver thing, which I guess, works fine alongside all of this. But this should ultimately be seen as a battle to see who is the capable face of this company. And I thought they hit that pretty well in this segment, especially like MJF's reaction to revealing that, that this audience loved him until Ospreay showed up and ruined it. Now, does the timeline match up, with that? I mean, Maybe it does. I don't know. I don't even really care enough to look into it. I can buy into that idea that MJF hates Ospreay because he came in and stole his crowd appeal, I suppose. So it made Ospreay feel like the face of the company. He felt so heroic, especially being willing to accept the fine in order to deliver that kick and punch. And I thought it was a overall very good segment. Very long segment, but a very good segment.
Both men who have gotten ink to show their dedication to this company as well.
Sure. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So very lengthy segment that they had here, and the crowd loved this. I mean, they like Will Ospreay felt like just the biggest star on a show that they were hot for a lot, but it seemed that Ospreay was at another level when he came out. Pardon the obvious pun. Yeah. Renee informs us in the back there's been an altercation. Hangman Page has been told to leave, and as Hangman is rushing by with his luggage, he says he did what he needed to do, and he is in the casino gauntlet match and threatens to run anyone over. And just casually walking in the back is Evil Uno. And Evil Uno explains he too is in the match, and to show Hangman how he has no loyalty to anybody in this match, given his history with the Dark Order, he attacks Evil Uno with a chair. And then, just to make it worse, well, first of all, he proclaims that he will run over anyone just to make sure that his joy and happiness go up in smoke without actually naming the name, and then rolls his luggage over top of Evil Uno, which, I mean, the man might as well have just spit right on top of him.
Oh, man, those things are dirty. You're going through hotels and airports. Yeah, gross. Yeah. I honestly, I thought like having Uno walk into the background of the shot and having Paige beat him up, I thought it was a little corny, considering like how I think effective Paige has been in making this character feel serious and darker. This segment felt a little bit too cartoonish for me, but it does set up the main story heading into the gauntlet, and I guess sets Paige up as the overwhelming favorite.
Kazuchika Okada against Claudio Castagnoli for the Continental Championship. So, we will get into the card later, but Claudio is here in Wales on a Wednesday. He will fly to do Arena Mexico on Friday, and then he will fly back for All In on Sunday. So this man has a lot of travel this week.
So he is going to be in the tag or trios match?
He is on the card, yes.
Okay.
So they start off here, and after the break, they are battling for vertical suplexes. Claudio wins out. They get into a big forearm battle, and Okada collapses. And Okada climbs to the top. He's struck by uppercuts, and then Okada lands the running drop kick, sending Claudio into the corner, hits the elbow drop, and gives the middle finger to the crowd. And then up pops Cesaro for the giant swing, and with it, a giant pop as the crowd is calling for another. But Claudio then runs the ropes and gets nailed with a drop kick. The Rainmaker is ducked, hits a spinning uppercut off the middle rope, but then a neutralizer gets countered as Okada hits his belly-to-back neck breaker, which brings the crowd to their feet in applause. And we're getting deep into the match. They're on their feet, they're on their knees, trading shots when all of a sudden, ring announcer Bobby Cruz announces there is 1 minute left. And you could just hear this groan from this crowd that just figured, oh, this is it. And they trade uppercuts. They still had a really hot final 60 seconds here. There's a pop-up uppercut, and Okada tries to roll to the floor. Claudio's holding on with all his might to keep him, but he holds on to the rope. He was such a coward here, holding on to the bottom rope. I loved it. And hits a foot stomp for a 2 count right as time expires after 20 minutes. And the crowd chants for 5 more minutes. But this was a hell of a 20 minutes you got, even in a edited form on TSN2, because we didn't get the breaks.
You're right. Yeah, we did not. I kind of feel like these sort of time limit draws aren't really as satisfying as they were when AEW began, because at that point they would do them kind of rarely, and it would be seen as like this very physically impressive feat. Wrestlers going at either 30 minutes or even 20 is very impressive. But I mean, they just did one on Collision. And to do another one here, it just kind of reeks of them not wanting to have either guy lose. And I think that's a bit of a cop-out. It was a really good Claudio showcase here. He just looked as impressive as always. And it's interesting seeing Okada play a heel who doesn't really, like, his job is not to look impressive. His job is to feed, for Claudio. And I thought like Okada played like a good cowardly heel throughout the match. So it's a very different Okada as, Claudio has suggested.
Well, the Young Bucks and Jack Perry walk out. They congratulate Okada, and Matt asks, do you want to see them go 5 more minutes? And the crowd does. Well, it's not happening because Okada's contract states he wrestles for 20 minutes, not 25, and they are sticklers for the rules and ask Claudio to leave the ring or they're going to physically remove him. So Claudio goes to put his mouth guard in to fight them when Darby's music plays, and that takes us into the next match, the Bucks and Jack Perry against Darby Allin and FTR. All are fighting on the floor. The Bucks stop a pair of sharpshooters from FTR early and then hit them with pescados on the floor, and Darby leaps onto everyone with his first coffin drop. There's a PK that sends Darby off the shoulders of Matt to the floor. Dax hits the rolling Germans and a brainbuster onto Jack Perry, and then FTR apply the sharpshooters to the Bucks while Darby applies the Scorpion Deathlock to Jack Perry, which it is identified with the 2 names, which I thought was like a cute spot to do with the connections by both to their... we didn't have anyone representing Ricky Choshu here, but nonetheless, Brett and Sting having their moves passed down here. The Elite then tease leaving. They grab their belts, and Cash Wheeler just dives with a tope onto all 3 of these guys. This guy just looks like he's in a car wreck every time he hits one of these. And Nick super kicks Dax and Cash. There's a code red by Darby. They're just going nuts here. Perry then hits a Scorpion Death Drop onto Darby, and Darby ducks the running knee strike. They hit a Shatter Machine on Jack Perry, then the Power and Glory on Matt, ending with a coffin drop as Darby pins Matt Jackson. 9 minutes and 56 seconds in kind of a fun little 10-minute sprint. And FTR and Darby is like one of those weird teams that just certainly clicked as in terms of just a makeshift trios unit for the night.
They're all just great wrestlers and capable of wrestling really fast matches, as I think, is demanded when you're wrestling the Bucks. And this was certainly one of those. The coordination here was really incredible between all 6 of them. Everybody looked really good. So just like one of those fun TV matches that that you're just happy was included on the show.
I just wanted one interview beforehand with Dax and Darby, just like going over strategy.
Sure. Yeah. How would that go?
I can't. I got to save my Dax. We got y'all in a year from now, so I've got plenty.
You think that Dax will be climbing Mount Everest anytime soon?
Oh hell, my family would be so happy if I could climb up Mount Everest. The Acclaimed walk out, and I think it's safe to say the raps are done at this point. And I don't even think.
They did one on Saturday in the back.
Yeah, and got a lot of criticism for that rap as well.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
And they did do the rap. It was very much in like a heelish tone, but I do feel like in terms of like the part of the show that is the Acclaimed rap, like I feel they are phasing it out to probably in their mind feel like this is a evolution for the characters. But I get you still do have the cadence with Max Caster though in his promos.
I don't think they're not heels, they're baby faces. But they're just trying to sound more serious. And for whatever reason, they feel like doing these raps are making them too silly, or at least too comedic. I think there's a happy medium. I think, I kind of like the acapella rap on Saturday, and I would have actually had him come out here and do an acapella rap, a la, John Cena from like, way back when. He just like, I also ask like why they come out to the music. If you're going to make the change and get rid of the music, because you're creating an expectation from people that he's going to rap.
Well, they are booed when they come out, but they do like a pretty much like babyface style of promo. They call FTR court jesters and the Young Bucks their 2 favorite princesses, but do put them over as 2 of the greatest teams ever, yet neither of you could beat us over the past week. Sunday will be no different. It's time to nut up or shut up, and Bowens makes various references to venues in Wales for the easy reaction, and they can't beat the Acclaimed, and we're going to fight until we are the tag team champions. And Billy Gunn just along for the ride here.
He says the same thing he's been saying for the past 20 years.
Hey, yes. Man, the guy knows how to...
Thing is, though, he says he's got 2 words for you. And, like, I think he intends on those 2 words now being scissor me, but everybody still just chants suck it.
We go to Renee in the back, and she's checking on Will Ospreay, whose head is busted open, and in walks Bryan Danielson, who looks Ospreay in the eye and says, "Do it! Just do it!"
Do what?
Paralyze MJF. Drop him on his head. This is all Ospreay needed. All this time, this man's been battling this, and Danielson could have given. I think he could have given him this advice like 6 weeks ago.
How have you felt about this Tiger Driver 91 build and tease and story up until this point?
So first of all, I think if this had been handled a bit differently, like the idea is, yes, we have had Danielson constantly selling his neck. There's not to say he hasn't been selling his neck, but this has not been presented as like this guy's career was nearly ended or that he was paralyzed from this move. I mean, he was back in pretty quick fashion at this point, and I don't fault them that they had this idea of building up to this move. It was fine in theory. I just don't think this really hit to the level that they expected. That said, I think if he hits this Tiger Driver on Sunday, it's going to be one of the biggest pops on the show. So maybe that kind of it's a moot point then of how they got there, and it's really built around hitting that move on Sunday and making it feel as important as possible, which it should be the finish of the match, and
or at least a tease of it. Yeah. I mean,
he should hit it on Sunday. Like you've built it up all this time for months and months. But that's going to be the memory of this story, is how the move comes off on Sunday and what the reaction is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anyway, there you go. That was Danielson's words of wisdom for Bryan Danielson. Then we have Nigel McGuinness as the moderator for the Final Showdown involving Swerve Strickland and Bryan Danielson. And he introduces Swerve as the franchise player, the most dangerous man in AEW today. First of all, Nigel McGuinness was amazing in this segment. I thought he was just tremendous. It's like this guy has built up a year of commentary for this one segment. This is his payoff. He's not getting the Wembley match, but he's getting the go-home segment. So This was his big moment. Nigel says to Swerve, you know, people have been calling him Brittle Brian, the neck break kid. While Swerve, you're in the best shape of your life and the overwhelming favorite to win this match. And Swerve thanks Nigel, lists off all the men he has beaten: Hangman twice, Takeshita, Jay White, Samoa Joe, Claudio, Christian, and Will Ospreay. And he's going to dissect Bryan Danielson, and he feels disrespected by Danielson from all these interviews he's been doing, stating he's ready to retire. That's a slap in the face to me. Don't think that you can take that away from me. I'm going to make sure that you are not capable of returning to the ring after Sunday. But maybe one day you're going to get that itch to return after I beat you. And you think that you can just go wrestle in some Pacific Northwest indie, as close as you could say to Defy here in Wales. And I'll be backstage when you get there after that indie show to take you out. Maybe you think you can hide under a mask in Mexico. I'll hunt you down in the streets of Mexico. Or maybe you'll sit down with your family to tell them that you feel you can make a return. And guess what? I'm going to show up there too. So Danielson runs down this idea of a home invasion. Too much. He knows that this man is serious about these invasions at home. So he runs down. Bosaiku knee is delivered to Swerve, clears out the ring, and says, maybe a lot of people are confused since I don't talk every week. Everyone knows who I am. I'm the best fucking wrestler in the world, and I have been for the last 20 years. And this Sunday, for the fans that pay to see me, my peers, and my family, you'll have to damn near kill me to beat me, because I will leave my soul in this ring. And Excalibur proclaims that's what Jeff Jarrett and Eddie Kingston and the world want to see out of Bryan Danielson. And Danielson ends by stating there's one question left. Can the American fucking Dragon beat Swerve for the AEW title? They know the answer, and you know the answer, as he leads a yes chant to end the show. Only thing that could have been better here was for Birdie to come into the ring and say, Daddy, I'm not ready for you to come home yet. unless you've got that championship. And that's the promise I want you to make to me. That's it.
That might be a closing scene. Who knows at Wembley?
Well, the confusing Bryan Danielson interviews continued, where he had stated that, my kids, my daughter doesn't want me to win. She wants me to go and be home with her. I was like, who is rooting for this man to win this championship when this is the alternative, that your child wants you to go home and be with them? Like, why do I want to root on for you to become this champion? Like, unless you're just completely
Because we're
cold-hearted.
selfish, because we don't want his daughter to spend time with him.
That's the hope, is that you care more about your entertainment that this man can provide you. But I thought this was an excellent segment to end the show. I thought everyone was great in their respective roles. I think that Swerve has just been magnificent in this whole lead up, and I really enjoyed Nigel too before Danielson came out.
I did too, yeah. I think Swerve has really transitioned well from being essentially top babyface of this company from Blood and Guts over into what feels very much like a top heel role for this main event match. Even though I consider still him to be a bit of a tweener, because I firmly expect him to go back to being a babyface for the Page match. But just he's a heel in this match because of how vicious he is towards Bryan Danielson and his promises of maiming and crippling this guy, which is exactly what we love in the babyface Swerve Strickland, right? So he really has been tremendous here, and Danielson kind of kept things nice and short. Danielson is serious when he starts cussing in his promos, and I guess that's exactly what Jarrett and Kingston wanted, was the Danielson that cusses, and they got it.
All right. Well, there you go. I thought it was an excellent go home show. This crowd was an A+, and I think it really did amp you up for the show on Sunday. I do feel like this year's show, they did, there was a lot of the criticism last year that things came together just late as we were suddenly getting closer and closer to All In. This one feels like a long concerted build for a lot of the matches that have been just slowly building and building. And you can have your thoughts on if any of the programs peaked too early, too late, but I think that they hit on a number of these different programs for Sunday going in this year, and I think that the build has been very strong. I don't expect this show to do near the business of last year's show. I think last year just was such an anomaly and a specialness that it's hard to replicate the second time around, that in many ways Wembley was the draw last year.
I like the card this year more than last year's. It feels like you're getting your WrestleMania level matchups, that are coming at the culmination of long-term build, either that or dream match levels, types of matches that you haven't seen before. So that alone, I think, is makes me more excited for this one than the last year. So yeah, maybe you want to talk about it.
Do you want to go through the card or feedback first?
Let's do the card.
Okay. So we're up to 10 matches altogether. How do we want to handle the ladder match? Are we going to omit the
No, let's just spoil it. Spoilers, everybody.
Okay. Let's go through that match first. So if you don't want to hear who is the mystery team, if this will ruin your Saturday.
We already spoiled it, didn't we?
No, not really. Oh, I guess kind of. But anyway. Fast forward a minute. It's anyway, if your Saturday is going to be
it's
so
fine.
Jeopardized.
It's not going to ruin your day.
Well, I don't want to ruin anyone's day. So we have got in the four-way London ladder match for the AEW World Trios Championships. What a mouthful. With the Patriarchy, Christian Cage, Killswitch, and Nick Wayne defending against the Bang Bang Gang, against the House of Black, and the team that has qualified, Pac, getting his Wembley moment. Teaming with Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. So that will be your lot of people in this match. A lot of we're throwing ladders in there. I mean, I feel this is going to be a very busy match to keep track of.
I mean, yeah, when you're talking about trios, when you're talking about 4 teams instead of I guess the expected 3, it's a lot of bodies, and it's going to require a lot of coordination. But I have faith in their ability to plan some really impressive spots. So I'm looking forward to this. I haven't really been enjoying the feud at all. I think it's been a lot of kind of tired, reasoning to try to get to a multi-man, a match through non-finishes and all that. But the ladder stipulation to me is the hook. It's there's no other, I guess, other than the coffin match, no real like hardcore match. I guess it's the FTW hardcore match.
By its design, it's no
Okay.
rules. So you can that match can be whatever they want it to be.
But yeah, this will be your car crash match on the show.
Yeah, I mean it's it's a match where you do have a fair amount of people here that have had their rash of injuries and such, and you throw a ladder in there. But I mean, it is for it will be a spectacle, to say the least. My notes are going to die following this match. To be quite honest, I see a decent shot of the makeshift team winning the belts here and like Pac climbing and grabbing these trios belts. I don't think that these belts need to be on any of these three teams. I think the most compelling one is Pac, who's like almost by has like some kind of loose association with the BCC coming out of this, and he gets his Wembley moment, which I know people are fighting this term to be a thing in AEW lore.
In Pac, his fight has a title shot for the Continental.
He gets the international champion at All Out.
Right. Okay.
Then let's go backwards. So the kickoff, only one match has been announced for the kickoff. There will be more, I'm sure. Stokely Hathaway and Chris Statlander against Willow Nightingale and Tomohiro Ishii. I think this is perfect for like a pre-show match that you have the easy comedy of Ishii with Stokely, and you also do have some stakes attached to this one where the winners get to pick the stipulation for the serious match with Chris and Willow 2 weeks later, which is kind of what you should have several of those on this show that naturally blend into the show that you have to turn around and do in 2 weeks.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think Willow and Statlander have done tremendous work with each other this past year. And having this little preview on a kickoff with what is sure to be an incredible moment, seeing Tomohiro Ishii and Stokely Hathaway go face to face together in the ring, I think is a great way of promoting their match in 2 weeks' time. And I look for Willow and Statlander obviously to do the bulk of the work here.
Yeah, I see the babyfaces just winning this one. I think it's a pretty simple way to do things, but could be fun for the time it has. Timeless Toni Storm and Mariah May for the AEW Women's Championship.
This, I think, to many, might be the best built match on this show.
I feel this match is going to have a lot of similar takes to CM Punk and Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam, and that sounds ridiculous, but I can see a lot of stuff being introduced in this match that some people are going to love, others that... Like, I just see this match being one that it's been built up. It seems like it's got such a big attention on it. Now you've got to do the match, and like to just do a straight up match almost seems like it's just counter to what this program has been, which has always been like this big elaborate presentation. I'm just curious what the match is. If it's just like a straight up grudge, because it seems as though, I'm curious because I really don't know what to expect with this.
I think straight up match for the most part to me would be the way to go, especially considering Toni Storm for her matches. I think a lot of whenever they have been criticized, it's been because she's injected too much of the gimmick into it. I think she's gotten away from that, and I think you need to still deliver on in-ring quality, especially for AEW, but have all the dramatic sort of tension that you can muster up for the finish. Does Mina Shirakawa play a role in any of this towards the end? So
she's got to be seated in the crowd, way out in the bleachers like Diana.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
In the same jacket, the same brown like cowboy jacket. Okay, I think you just go all the way.
I'm expecting some incredible entrances, especially for Toni Storm, maybe for Mariah May as well. And I'm expecting Mariah May to win this one. This is, she's just been so incredibly impressive, since her debut and her transition into this like lead heel role. I think this is the perfect place to kind of really cement her status as like top villain in this division.
I think May wins this match.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then we have MJF and Will Ospreay for the AEW American Championship. And they went 59 minutes, 59 seconds on TV a month ago. And I don't see them going 60. Could see them going 30. I could see them go 30, 35. I think this is going to get a ton of time. And I guess as well, do you do you schedule this late in the show?
It'll be interesting because I think you have a lot of matches that you can argue are worthy of being a semi-main. I feel like you're going to have Storm and May closer to the end, and maybe Ospreay and MJF closer to the front. Same with Mercedes and Baker.
Okay, is this a Will Ospreay victory?
I don't think that's guaranteed. I mean, you would think, okay, Wembley probably should have the hometown guy win rather than the guy with the American thing. But like the whole Tiger Driver 91 thing does make a really interesting element to think about. It's going to be Ospreay kind of coming to terms with actually doing it, but it's also going to be MJF teasing that he can pull it out as well. So it could be MJF finishing Will Ospreay with the Tiger Driver. So I think these two are going to have an outstanding match. You know, they did for their 60 minutes, but I'm curious to see how they make things different this time around in less time. But obviously with a bigger stage and a lot more, I think, interest in storyline this time around.
I think Will wins with the Tiger Driver, and he comes out of this, and he's more dangerous than ever because he has now this weapon that he wouldn't use against Swerve, he wouldn't use against MJF, and now he has overcome that hesitancy, and he's the dangerous challenger that can go back for the championship down the road.
Yeah, I'm really curious if they're practicing the Tiger Driver 91, because other than the Kenny one, I'm not going to ever argue and begrudge like wrestlers for making moves look safe, you know, but when you're billing this as like this sort of career ending move, I just wonder if they're like practicing it to make it look as devastating as they can, you know, rather than like what might just be a bit of a flat back bump or upper back bump.
Well, you know, Tiger Drivers, chair shots to the head. They've figured out all of this stuff that you can do without any repercussions.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Next is Jack Perry and Darby Allin for the TNT Championship in a coffin match that we will have. And you do have Darby Allin that is challenging for the title, but that is not for another month until they get to Grand Slam. I don't think that means I don't take that to mean anything that he's got this title match at Grand Slam. I think that this is a very big match for Jack Perry, who I think he has come back and he's in a good role, but this is a chance for these two to go out and have a real big match. And you could even argue that Jack Perry getting a win here could pay dividends down the road when these two could end up in an even higher spot like a year from now.
Sure. Yeah. So let's say Perry beats Allin challenges and wins.
You're talking about a Grand Slam. Darby winning the title at Grand Slam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that's one way that you have an opponent right away. Now the coffin stipulation, I mean, it doesn't mean you can't have the heel win, but there is that aspect to things as well that they have done before, and you've also done the prior coffin match. The man has a history with the coffin match with Christian as well.
Sure. I'm still probably going to go with Darby for this one just because it's he's the guy going for a championship. I think Perry has like sort of been unchecked as like a villain for quite a while, and this feels like it would be a good place for him to get his comeuppance. So yeah.
Maybe he wins it and he dubs this is now the Max Streaming Championship, and he reveals the new pay-per-view strategy.
As a part of the finish, he just like grabs the mic before he goes for the pinfall. Says all that. Okay.
Mercedes Moné, Dr. Britt Baker for the TBS Championship. I think this is going to be a great match. I have never had a concern about the match itself. I think they had a rough road to get here. They've had their highs and lows, but now that they are at the match, I think that people are going to treat this like this is a big deal. And I think that I think everyone on this show is going to have the time to have the match that they want. That is one part of these AEW pay-per-views that as a performer, if you want to have your big match on pay-per-view, you're going to be given the canvas literally to do so. And if this one goes 20 minutes, it's not going to be surprising to me. Oh,
no. It can go longer than that.
Like, this is going to be such a long show, dude. Like, I'm just looking at this, and we don't even have the full card. Like, I guarantee you this thing is going to swell by Sunday.
10 matches feels low. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. It's the biggest match you can arguably make in terms of star power in the division. I think the entrance, Mone's entrance is probably going to be one of the highlights of this entire thing. So, I'm looking forward to the match. You know, it is, I think what you would consider to be a bit of a dream match, you know, for AEW.
Do you see Mercedes retaining?
Yes, I do. Mm-hmm. You?
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Baker needs to win. I think there's a bit more value in having Mone like pose, like do her media with the championship and continue to bring the title over to other promotions as your champion. And you know, maybe this sets up a rematch down the line for Baker and Mone, because I wouldn't necessarily expect this to just end on one match either.
You can do a rematch later, and you have Baker and Camille, which I could see them doing that at All Out as well.
Sure, yeah.
The Casino Gauntlet match thus far announced: Orange Cassidy, Mark Briscoe, Kyle O'Reilly, Hangman Page, and Evil Uno. Of course, the match can end at any point, and the winner gets a future world title shot. So I guess for many people, Hangman is the favorite, but this one is hard to guess because this is where you could load up surprises. And I guess as well, another question is, do you see a spot, whether it be in this match or anywhere else on the card, for an Okada, for a Jon Moxley, who I would say are the two biggest omissions on this card so far?
Yeah, sure. But I would suggest that they're not winning it. Then they don't necessarily need to be in this, unless they use it as a way to springboard them into other feuds. But if
that's the case, I don't even want to see Jon Moxley in this. I think there's almost no point to just put him in just to be on the show.
I really don't like the idea that everybody needs to be on a show. Well, even if you're a name as big as Moxley and Okada, it's fine. I
have the same thought on big shows. I hate where you just fill up all these matches with bodies, but that's going to be the case, I think, once we see the end of this card, is just how many people are attached to all the matches.
So Hangman is by far, I would say, the overwhelming favorite, just because he's the only one with a real storyline and ambition towards facing Swerve Strickland for the championship. Now, can we is there a possibility that we get any debuts in a match like this?
Sure. I mean, Ricochet's out there. Again, this is like my thought always is with a debut. It's like if he's not winning, sure, he can come out and he gets a great reaction, but I almost feel that, yeah, and then after the match, like that's a great pop he gets for and hey, he could win it. Like you could certainly have Ricochet come in, and that's a great way to introduce him, where you're coming out of this and you're going to do Ricochet against Bryan Danielson. Like, could do a lot worse. So yeah, that's obviously a surprise, and there could be others.
Yeah.
Chris Jericho and Hook for the FTW Championship. I don't know. This seems as much of a lock for Hook to get the big win as anything on the show.
Honestly, I'm looking up and down the card, and at least as far as the singles matches go, this one might, for some people, be like the one of least interest. I haven't been loving this Jericho Hook storyline. I think the Learning Tree has had moments of, I think, entertainment, but nothing where I feel like, you know, this is such a hot program that like I'm looking forward to it. But I think Jericho has actually really has made like these FTW championship matches pretty entertaining. You know, expect whatever sort of London specific bag of weapons that he'll pull out. You know,
maybe he'll get Mercedes Moné's breakfast from the other day and start firing off squared eggs.
Perhaps, yeah. So maybe a bit of comedy in this one, but yeah, I see Hook just taking the championship back, and maybe
under 10 minutes.
I'm going to say under, yeah.
And Jericho's mentioned he is performing at the show too.
At the show itself,
like Fozzy, I guess.
He's playing himself out.
I think so. I think that's the deal.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think he debuted a new song tonight.
I did not even notice.
Yeah, as the segment was closing, I think there was like a new Fozzy song.
All right.
So I hope Hook wins this thing and just retires this FTW championship.
Oh, are you kidding? He's going to create like a secondary FTW championship, probably.
Okay.
The FTW tag titles. Young Bucks, FTR, and Acclaimed for the tag titles in a three-way match. And who do you see coming out as champions here?
Okay. Let me think about this. Like FTR and the Bucks. I mean, I could see the Bucks retaining. Because like, okay, let's say like the Bucks lose. Do we still have interest in this like whole EVP takeover that they've been trying to promote? You know, like
have we been interested in this takeover period?
No, not so much. But like them losing the championships doesn't that kind of
that means they lose their voting power.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're trying to make a real effort with the Acclaim by like rebranding them as like a more serious version of themselves. I mildly successful, I would say. But I think I'm gonna say the Bucks retain.
I think we're gonna get. I'll go with the Bucks, and I feel that whoever is not taking the fall here, they're gonna lead to All Out quickly, and just do a tag match.
Okay, sure.
And perhaps you go with the idea that the Bucks end up retaining against FTR, and once again, like the promo tonight, the Acclaimed still have not been beaten by either of these teams, and that's a reason for them to have something at stake for All Out that you can turn around, and the Bucks maybe they lose the tag titles in 2 weeks afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So. And then rounding things out, Swerve Strickland, Bryan Danielson, title versus career for the AEW World Championship. Wai, have they done enough convincing that this finish at all is in doubt for you?
For me, the answer is yes. Maybe I'm just choosing to, be sucked into this story, but like, I think they've done such a great job of, telling me that this could be Bryan Danielson's last match. And I guarantee you those near falls are going to be incredibly dramatic. I just haven't had the negative reaction that I see some people have that, this entire stipulation being added to this has somehow ruined this match. I completely disagree. I think it's just, raised the stakes that much more. And I think there is a chance that this could be his last match.
With all that they have done and the fact that this is Bryan Danielson, I think that I'm with you. Like, you've got the family there at ringside. It wouldn't surprise me if they replay that Green Day video or have a whole new video for him. That crowd is absolutely going to be buying on near falls. And I think you also have like a red hot champion in Swerve Strickland that I can give you a long argument of wanting to stay with this guy. But I feel that the story is there for Danielson to win. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think it's a great idea of him winning this and then promising that the next time I lose is when I step away on my terms. And suddenly, like, you could have like this gauntlet winner comes out and you get a TV match, and you've got, or that's the All Out match, and you have Darby and Danielson at Grand Slam, and then you have Tacoma in October as well. I feel like you squeeze out Danielson for a few more months and you have people get the big moment here. But I'm not going to say like it's a slam dunk that they go that direction. Like, I could see Danielson being the one who would want to end his career in front of this giant 50,000 people, and he's putting over Swerve Strickland on the way out. Like, that's not crazy out of the realm of possibility, but I see the title switch.
I do too. Yeah, all that said.
All right, that's the show. Have any new matches been announced since we started our preview?
Not in the next.
We'll probably get to do another preview on Friday night, potentially.
Maybe.
Well, there you go. Let's do some feedback from the show tonight, because I know people have left them on the forum. And if you are so inclined, you are welcome to drop us a super chat as well.
Sure. Let's go to forum.postwrestling.com.
We start things off with Andrew from Cape Breton. This definitely was a strong go-home show. There's more talking than usual, but most of it was pretty substantive. I thought the Ospreay MJF promo was trying to be a little too cute with the references of trying to make the company better, but by the end, they did a great job building the match, and the crowd loved it. I did appreciate whatever UK reference, even if I didn't get it. They should do that more in Canada. Someone should reference the log driver's waltz, ask someone they love before putting anything in their mouth, or tell the audience to keep fit and have fun. Well, I got one of those three references, and I'm Canadian. The last hour breezed by as the last two matches were really good. My dream booking scenario is the Continental Classic is actually used to unify titles as the International, Continental, FTW, and a few ROH titles that all don't need to be around. Great show tonight, though, and I'm looking forward to All In.
We got a super chat here from Jake from the Whitney City, who's been a member of our YouTube channel for 19 months. Thank you, Jake. He says, good go-home show. Surprised Tony versus Mariah doesn't have a stipulation, as the feud has sort of a build-up to a bloodbath, unless they're saving for All Out. It could still be a bloodbath. Yeah, very much so.
I don't see the need of just a stipulation for the sake of a stipulation. Like it's a big, intense grudge match. I mean, it's like, if that doesn't have you hooked, then I would argue it's not that great of a storyline if you need some added like weapon type of match added to it. Like, I think it's been built up, and whether you like it or not, it's been built up off of the story, and it should be this big showdown between these two that has been told for months to get to this point.
You save it for a rematch.
Yeah. And there's nothing stopping them from doing blood on Sunday anyway. You don't need any kind of stipulation for that.
Let's go up next to Brian from New Jersey, who says, this was a heck of a go-home show. I didn't understand Will Ospreay's references at the start of the segment with MJF, but I thought the segment overall was really strong, as were Swerve and Danielson at the end. Okada versus Claudio got really good. Very much anticipating the pay-per-view.
Okay, Brian. Jordan from the Bronx. No one believed that Saraya was winning the match and taking Tony's place on Sunday. It's one of the booking conventions that I never liked about AEW go-home shows. Ospreay and MJF could have shaved a few minutes off of the talking. MJF revealing his jealousy was a fun moment. Then they just kept talking. The physicality afterwards was well done. Okada and Claudio was a match that both of them needed. They both started to feel like background characters for a while. Perhaps a rematch at All Out. The building was packed, made AEW look much better than it has been for a long time. I don't know what their issues are in American buildings, but I'm glad to see that the Welsh crowd showed up and were vocal all night. I'm torn between Danielson and Swerve. Swerve's my favorite wrestler right now, and Danielson is among my favorites of all time. There isn't a wrong way to go, and it's fun to get a match where you truly can't guess what the direction is. Sunday is going to be epic.
And our last piece of feedback comes to us from Curtis from the 519, who says, a really strong go-home show that has me excited for Sunday. Ospreay and Bryan both cut amazing babyface promos and really sold me on the top two matches. I thought Okada had his best match since joining AEW full-time, and the crowd really elevated this show and made everyone feel like major stars. Britt and Mercedes had their best segment since week one of the feud, though nothing has been coming close to reaching that level. The trios match was amazing. AEW is at their best when they have hot, fast-paced trios matches on the show where they can let the participants cook. Overall, a solid debut overseas for Dynamite. Question, what level of surprises are you expecting for Sunday? Feels inevitable that Ricochet shows up at some point soon, with Sunday seeming like the most likely time. Do you think we see a Bobby Lashley come in, or do you see him doing more projects outside of wrestling? Specifically for John, what interest do you think promoters from the MMA and boxing world have in him at this stage of his career? Could we see him show up in Bellator, or is he more destined for the undercard of the next big celebrity boxing card?
I mean, I hazard to say this when it comes to some of your more out there boxing cards and such, but I think that ship has passed for Bobby Lashley. I don't think he's in a position where he really needs to be doing it. I don't see him doing that. I mean, stranger things have happened when it comes to the celebrity boxing route, and someone could write a nice check for him to do one of these big celebrity boxing things, but I don't see him doing MMA, and maybe a very, very small chance of like one of those celebrity boxing fights.
Yeah, if there's a place for any of these guys to show up, it would be in the gauntlet. It could be for some of these finishes that we just can't, aren't really expecting and thinking about right now. It would be a great way to debut them, but at the same time, there's going to be so much on this show. Will they be remembered by the end of the card, or do you choose to save them for All Out, and maybe they might stand to make a bigger impact there?
Yeah, I mean, that's quite honestly, like for like a Ricochet, for instance, like I almost think it would be more impactful that, sure, have him at the show, and he's just like, he's introduced to the audience, this big 50,000 people, they go nuts, and he announces he's debuting at All Out, rather than just be a number in the gauntlet. I mean, if he's winning the gauntlet, you could argue that, but I think that right there, it's like Ricochet's first AEW match, 2 weeks on pay-per-view, like that's the kind of thing that sends people to want to order another pay-per-view in 2 weeks.
Sure.
And I mean, they're so loaded with the amount of people they have. Like, I'm not necessarily looking at this roster and saying, man, who do they need to add at this point? Like, they're so full.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, there you go. That is the show for everybody. We are going to be back on Thursday. We've got Rewind-A-Wai coming up. And Wai, what are we going to be discussing?
WrestleMania 10.
Ooh,
Classic show.
that is right. And Wai, I know one thing that you have loved. It is me diving into excerpts from some of the key participants attached to WrestleMania 10. So a little sneak peek for what you're going to get at postwrestlingcafe.com on our WrestleMania 10 review. It is WrestleMania 10, a show that we have to check in with Bret Hart himself. We will have to get the perspective of one Shawn Michaels on the ladder match. But ladies and gentlemen, it's not often that I get to dig really deep, get the dust off, and we're going to hear about Bruce Hart and how this could have been his match at WrestleMania 10 as
Straight
well.
from the heart. All right.
So we're gonna get all perspectives coming up on Rewind-A-Wai Thursday on the Post Wrestling Cafe.
Excellent. All right.
Okay. So that's coming up. Rewind-A-SmackDown Friday. And then on Saturday, we're going to be dropping a new Postmarks. Mike Murray is going to be dropping by.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. Tune in and find out. And then Saturday night, Collision Course with Kate and John Cena, as they will be chatting about the true go-home show before All In. And then Wai and I coming at you Sunday. God knows what time. It will be after All In, and we'll be live on the YouTube channel for everybody. So go hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification, and you will know when we are live on Sunday to talk about a packed pay-per-view that AEW will be presenting all day long on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Sleep up, rest up, and join us then.
Keep fit and have fun, and that's it for Rewind-A-Dynamite.